Good evening and welcome to the Full Throttle End of Year Special here on Unprecedented TV, brought to you in association with the Alliance of British Drivers. I'm Paul Naylor, Communications Director of the Alliance of British Drivers.
And I'm Brian Gregory, Policy Director of the Alliance of British Drivers. Tonight we're looking back at 2025, a year that saw the most relentless assault on British motorists in decades, forced EVs, soaring taxes, crumbling roads, and political chaos that led the anti-driver agenda run riot.
And joining us to rip through the headlines is our special guest. Yes, it's the one and the only Lembit Öpik, former MP, motorbike enthusiast, fearless campaigner for driver freedom, and CEO of Unprecedented TV, and might I add, a very poor impressionist. Hello there, Lembit. How are you, sir?
Humbug.
Oh, great. All right.
How dare you? How dare you? If I'm such a bad impressionist, how come you can always tell when I'm doing Ed Miliband? Which I now will do at some point in the show.
Oh yeah, we'll look forward to that. As long as you don't let things start blowing in the wind, it's not a good idea after all those spouts.
Well, it's a red rag to a bull. You wait now at some point in the next 60 minutes.
Absolutely. Okay. Right. So we're cracking on here, and we're into the we're going to do a month by month review of what went on in 2025. So the headline that I've got here is January. It says headline: ZEV mandate chaos. 28% EV force-fed or massive fines. Petrol prices soar. So right out of the starting gates, the ZEV mandate was ramped up to 28%. Was it 22 before? Yes, it was. It was 22 the previous year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And manufacturers either had to sell nearly a third of new cars as electric or get hammered with huge fines. And of course, the result is prices on ICE EVs, conventional vehicles, actually went upwards, and they were selling BEVs at colossal losses and suffering huge depreciation, which got a lot of the leasing companies, and still getting the leasing companies, into huge problems because of the rate of depreciation of these vehicles, because private buyers don't want them. Just a crazy situation.
Just know what a ZEV is. What is it? What is a ZEV?
What is a what?
ZEV, a Z.
Zero emission vehicle.
Thank you. There we go.
But I mean, it's a misleading, because there's no such thing as a zero emissions vehicle, because the power that was, that you charge, that you put in it, came from a power station somewhere which emits.
Yeah.
So they're no tailpipe emissions, but they're not zero emissions.
Yeah, and there's a lot more problems in the actual production of the vehicle in the first place. That's probably outputting more emissions than any other vehicle that's produced.
Exactly.
I have to say, in my experience, when I bought when I leased my latest car, never once did the guy at the car dealership try to sway me towards electric. So I was quite refreshing, actually. So that's why I've stuck with my manufacturer of choice for as long as I have.
Yeah. Well, I think if you actually go into the showrooms now, you're going to come under, from new cars, you're going to come under more pressure from the dealers to take at least a hybrid, if not a full battery electric vehicle, because they're sitting on huge stocks of the things. They've pre-registered huge numbers of them, which are then being sold as used, even though they've got delivery mileage on them, and their cash flow is just being destroyed, and they're under enormous pressure to shift metal and lithium batteries.
What's your personal thoughts then, Brian? Is it a vehicle that you would ever go for, or is it just something that just doesn't interest you?
No, not at all. I imagine that they are extremely boring to drive, because it's just like a supercharged milk float. and it might have regenerative braking and all that sort of thing, but there's no hands-on sort of experience. Even with because of back problems, I drive an automatic now. In the past, I've always driven manuals, and that's more involved in still. But even with this one, with the flappy paddles, you can use it to go down the box. Not much point trying to go up because it flicks up through the gears so fast. You couldn't do this fast manually. But at least you've got the involvement of slow in, fast out, and you can set the car up for corners and things. I can't imagine there's any satisfaction with a car that's just got a stop and a go pedal.
Yeah.
Well,
like I say, it does take a lot of the enjoyment away from driving. Lembit, what's your thoughts?
First of all, I'm deeply offended by the second story on the headline. On the headlines there, Öpik's latest madcap adventure. I don't remember trading myself to a petrol pump. I'm not sure how you do that, really. But anyway, leaving that aside, fake news. It's fake news. Anyway, my
news. It's in the paper, Lembit.
You got to be in it to win it.
Exactly.
The issue I've got with electric vehicles is the danger in an accident. Well, two things. First of all, they're heavy. They're really heavy compared to their petrol and diesel equivalents.
Yeah,
I'm a diesel person myself. I just think they're very economical, very reliable, a lot of torque. I just like that. But I do drive an automatic as well, and it's just because I can't be bothered really. I'm not a very fast driver anymore. The problem with electric vehicles is twofold. One, I don't want to sit around for an hour waiting for it to charge if I'm making a long journey. And the second thing is they're dangerous. If you have an accident and any of the battery cells ruptures, you could be poisoned and incinerated, because once an electric vehicle starts burning, you can't put them out. From an environmental point of view, they're obviously bad. They're obviously really bad because they take up precious metals, which are more usefully deployed in other walks of human life. And kids are mining this stuff in places like the Democratic Republic of Congo. And once you put them in the battery, let's not pretend we have no practical way of recycling them. So they're bad all round. But then, of course, this whole thing is political. It's not about the environment, really. It's about the government trying to look like they're stopping a non-existent climate emergency, and that really gets on my nerves.
Yeah. And the emergency itself is the so-called emergency is an excuse for increasing levels of state control. Nothing to do with any sort of climatic emergency or anything, because there's no evidence from the science that exists.
There's evidence, there's positive evidence to show that there isn't a climate emergency. Only idiots like Ed Miliband believe it. Oh, the answer, my friend, is literally blowing in the wind. Got it. I got it in. I can take that out of my head now. But people like Ed Miliband are absolute dunces. If you said to them, why is carbon dioxide bad? They won't give you a sensible answer because they don't understand. So the fundamental, if somebody wants to buy an electric vehicle, fair enough. I've got an electric bicycle. That's pretty handy. So I'm not going to stop someone buying one, but woe betide anyone who makes me have to buy an electric vehicle. I'm not putting my kids on top of the bomb.
Yeah, it should just become a third choice, basically.
Exactly. And let people choose whatever technology suits them best, which is what it always should have been. Government should have just butted out and let the industry, the car industry, vehicle industry, work out the best available technology by evolution, as it was with nobody sort of mandated for horses and carts to be stopping the use of them. It was because they were replaced by superior technology. And there's no compelling evidence to me that battery electric vehicles are superior technology to internal combustion engine vehicles.
Almost everybody I know who's got an electric car also has a petrol car or a diesel car. And they use the electric car to go on their Ponzi dinner party visits to their friends or down to the shops, which is 6 miles return. But for the long journeys, they use the petrol or diesel because it takes 5 minutes to recharge it as opposed to an hour. I got relatives who came from Edinburgh down to Bristol once, a few years ago, in an electric car. They're well-meaning people, but they had to stop 4 times to recharge. It took them 23 hours.
I mean, Yeah. I mean, my personal experience is that around 10 years ago, while I was working for regional press, the motoring editor asked me if I would like to take a Nissan Leaf for a few days. Now, okay, we're talking 10 years ago now, and the range on that thing, I think, was around 88 miles. And that's if you didn't have the lights and the stereo on. And for me, the whole experience of driving that car was akin to a mobile phone. All you were constantly looking at was where your battery was. Um, and for me, it was a really dull and unenjoyable experience. And I've got friends who have gone down the electric route, and one's gone back to a normal petrol engine car, and the other has gone to a hybrid. So that tells you everything you need to know about EVs.
I'll make a prediction. That in January 2026. So if you're watching this in the archive, you can see if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah.
There will be a problem on our electric vehicles get stuck in snow.
Yes.
Because there will be a lot of snow in January,
Yeah.
and they'll have the heating on. They'll get stuck because of an accident, and then they'll become the problem because they'll become discharged, and there'll be a bunch of them. Somewhere that's going to happen.
I think that's a pretty solid prediction there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to take something like that to wake a lot of people up. And I've thought this for a long time now, that the scenario of a motorway completely gridlocked by electric vehicles in the snow, it's just a matter of time. And I think you're right. I think the forecast is early January. We're going to get a shed load of snow. So
not according to Dr. David Viner of the Climatic Research Unit of the discredited department in the University of East Anglia, who said 25 years ago that our children just won't know what snow is. But I digress.
So I don't know whether that impression's any good because I don't know his voice.
No, I wasn't. No, I was impersonating myself.
I
That was an impersonation.
That was a damn good impersonation of yourself there, Lembit. We're impressed. Right.
Very good, Lembit. He does
We better move on. So we're into February now. And I'm looking at it, it's the script. So Tulip Sadiq booted out in Treasury scandal shocker. Who was Treasury Minister Tulip Sadiq? Resigned amid serious allegations tied to family links and a corruption probe in Bangladesh. Yeah. Crikey, that must have passed right over my head. No, anyway, yes. One of the first big cracks in the Labour government while motorists were quietly being squeezed harder on the roads. Yeah, and that hadn't even registered on my radar, I must be honest. But yeah, and the longer the administration goes on, as we'll see, no doubt, for coming along in the through the months here, the probity, honesty, and integrity of a lot of Labour politicians seems to be a bit flaky. Anyway,
I don't have an issue with imperfect politicians. I have an issue with hypocritical ones. The Labour Party spent a lot of the 2024 general election telling us how they would be better. They promised change for the better, and you've got all this weirdness going on. And something which we had this woman who resigned essentially for what looked like very dodgy dealing. And as I say, if you actually judge everybody by today's sanctimonious standards, then people like Churchill and John F. Kennedy, they couldn't possibly stay in office. But but the preachiness of the Labour Party, that's what really bugs me. Because we'll probably come to some of the other resignations later, but they've turned out to be absolutely pathetic in terms of the standards they set for themselves. If somebody said to me, I'm not perfect, I'll make mistakes and I'm not going to judge others, and then they're showing up for doing stuff, I'll forgive them. But if they call for other people's resignations for the same things, then they need to go.
Exactly.
My thoughts entirely. This holier than thou attitude, and then they turn out actually to be just as bad. It doesn't sit well, and the electorate are not impressed. Most people are not impressed, I'm sure.
I don't think we're saying that Conservatives were any better, but at the same time,
No. But don't set yourself up as a paragon of virtue if it turns out that you're not.
well, and don't get yourself under false pretenses either. But
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So moving swiftly on to March.
yes.
20 miles per hour and LTNs ignite driver rage. Enough of this nanny state nonsense. So, we're looking at sort of blanket. Well, of course, there's a Welsh experiment of 20 miles an hour, which was the I can't remember what it was called, but one of the political supremos in the Senate was actually a poster boy for 20 mile an hour limits. He was the one who organised for the policy to be implemented in Wales. And then, surprise, surprise, was tasked with doing the review to see whether they were any good. And needless to say, he said, of course they are, but there's been a huge political backlash. And they're even having to look, well, they are walking back some of them, but nowhere near enough of the 20 mile an hour limit.
I went to Wales a few times because I've still got some connection there, and I will not do any business in Wales. The driving is absolutely unforgivably bad. It's really, really awful. I realize that I've got a madcap adventure every month. Remember these 20 mile an hour combo with 5 miles, I feel the pain. That's quite interesting, actually, because I did once go to a road safety conference in Bristol, and I said the only reason that 20 miles an hour has been chosen is because it rhymes with plenty. 20 is plenty. I said, why don't we go for 5 alive? And they started booing me. I said, that rhymes even better. And it's a drink that everyone knows. So actually, there's some truth in this one. But this whole thing about 20 mile an hour speed limits and low traffic neighborhoods, it's basically the emasculation of drivers.
Yes.
And, you drive through Wales now, it's unbearable. It's absolutely unbearable. And it's hard to tell what speed limits are. They go 30, 40, 20, 40, 20. And it's very easy to get a speeding ticket. For what? I haven't checked the statistics, but I very much doubt there's been a significant fall in casualties.
It's also a potential shift in concentration as well, because instead of looking out of your windscreen, you're looking at your speedo to check that you're doing the right speed in the right zone. It's
while you're being overtaken by pensioners on mobility scooters
and cyclists. Should apply to cyclists too.
On the cover of that newspaper there, you can't quite see it, but just to the left of that, there's a sidecar with a dog in it. Is that your Wallace and Gromit effort there, Lembit?
I couldn't possibly comment on the previous the newspaper had cover. Apparently, there's a third cheeky girl. That's news to me, but I will look into it. There it is.
You never met.
Just good friends. Yeah, well, frankly, if there was a third cheeky girl, it wouldn't just be good friends, but that's another story.
Right. Yeah. So I think we've covered that. The drivers were furious about endless delays, fines, councils turning roads into obstacle courses instead of proper transport routes, which is still, of course, the case because there's still a lot of this LTN stuff going on in and around London. A lot of councils have signed up to this UK 100 cities thing, which is actually more than 100 locations now, where they're trying to bring in these 15-minute city concept, so that you won't need to go any further than 15 minutes walking or cycling to at all the facilities you need, except if you happen to want to visit some beauty spot 50, 60, 100 miles away, which you wouldn't, if they can get what their philosophy established, you wouldn't be allowed to do anyway. Or
it's still middle class as well. If you're living where I used to live in the Elephant and Castle area, you don't want to be stuck there. This 15-minute cities idea is a middle-class poncy piece of nonsense by people who live in leafy suburbs or are single and can cycle to their job at Transport for London. But for real people, it's just utter rubbish. It's trash.
Yeah. But it's to them, it's it's an ideology again.
Yeah.
The problem is there's so much ideology that's not based on sound science of any kind, but it's being peddled by it's being peddled by politicians and commuters in central London, in the green blob bubble. Anyway, we'll move on. I think we're on to April now. We are. Oh, Trump's tariffs hammer 25 slap on UK cars. Motorists pay the price. I think he walked that back later in the year, but initially when he was playing hardball on tariffs, it was, I think, 25%. It was even higher in the EU. Was it 50% or something? I can't remember. But certainly
he was quite lightly, apparently, at the time.
Yeah, we did in comparison with the rest of Europe. Although I think he's again, that's walking back now because of other issues related to freedom of speech and whatnot. But certainly early on, we were getting preferential treatment compared with all the other, as he saw them, bad guys. It was another blow for road users because spare parts and everything were going to go up as a result, and repairs, and also it feeds into inflation inevitably, and that means all of us end up paying the price because of so much of what we consume and use nowadays is transported by road one way or another.
Yeah,
ultimately.
Yeah,
I think for me here,
there was a couple of businesses that almost automatically said that they were closing. Parts businesses that said can't sustain this, and they closed. Instead of waiting to find out what happened. But strange.
The story for me here is that Keir Starmer has utterly wrecked the special relationship with America. There's no special relationship because we didn't get special treatment. We got tariffs. It's quite obvious that Trump doesn't respect Starmer, nor should he. Starmer is the worst prime minister, I think, in living memory. Far worse than this.
Probably not the worst prime minister in English history, I think it's fair to say.
I would agree with you. And he's ruined this special relationship. And so therefore we got stuck with these tariffs. Fair play to Trump, though. He's bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars a year now from the tariffs. If you want to be insular, then that's a good way to do it. But as far as the UK is concerned, the entire motor industry is suffering, and not least because of this conversation we already had, which is this preposterous idea that everyone will have to buy an electric car from 2030. It's not realistic. Even those idiots in Brussels have backed off from that now, but not the United Kingdom. And so we've torched our motor industry. Why would you build petrol and diesel vehicles in a country you can't sell them in?
Yeah. Absolutely, and of course the other thing is that we'll never be able to compete with Chinese now, who are importing battery electric vehicles at a loss at the moment, but are starting to look into building their own vehicles in Europe. I think is it Hungary? Apparently the Chinese are now looking to build a factory to build, I can't know, JQs or whatever the hell it is. And then, of course, once they're inside the EU, they avoid the tariff barriers, and then they can just comprehensively brick what remains of the European auto industry. Certainly, if they're forced on to compete on the battery electric vehicle front, because we have no advantages.
There's one other irony. Ursula von der Leyen, who's as bad as Keir Starmer, and who seems to be messing about in European politics, failed politician in her own right, moaned about these tariffs, but it's the European Union that tried to put crazy tariffs on imports from China. Total hypocrisy. Back to that hypocrisy point. People don't seem to realize this. And they get away with it because people don't really know who she is, and they don't care about European politics very much. But the whole thing stinks. And if you really believe in a free market, then tariffs by Europe are no better than tariffs by the United States. But since they tried to introduce them, they can't really complain about Trump doing the same thing.
No, absolutely. He's just responding in kind, and certainly I think it was more justification for him doing it than for them. The EU. But of course, the problem is none of these the top EU politicians are actually elected. They're appointed and it's a self-sustaining mafia, really. They all have the same views and the same objectives, and they're not aligned with the objectives of individual European nations or individual European nations governments. That they have their own sort of ideology and philosophy, which is again around this sort of command and control approach to things. They think that the more the state intervenes and interferes, the better it is. When in fact, almost invariably, the more the state intervenes and interferes, the worse it makes things.
I think fundamentally, you've got Trump and Starmer operating at opposite ends of the spectrum. Trump, who is very pro-America and very much about sort of looking after his own country, and Starmer, who couldn't care less about his own country and go out into the world trying to make himself a throne, amongst other leaders. It's not working. People see through it.
It's tragic, really, for this country, because we've got such a low quality of politician now, and these tariffs on cars and everything else combines with ideologies. You said before, Brian, it's ideological to go for electric vehicles. There's no environmental benefit in it whatsoever, and certainly no utility in it, because for long distances, current battery technology isn't good enough. But fundamentally, when you have a command economy, when you start telling people what they have to do, you've lost all track of what a free market is. So then we don't have a free market country now. We have Rachel Reeves, who hasn't got a clue what she's doing, who had a dishonest CV, and apparently wasn't the chess champion when she claimed she was a chess champion. These people are wrecking driving, but then of course they're perfectly happy to have their ministerial cars, and Starmer's perfectly happy to fly around the world, and what do you call him, that stupid deputy prime minister, stupid Lammy. In the literal Lammy, is willing to eat his way around the world in posh flights.
Absolutely, and it's just depressing. The proof of the pudding's in the eating, as they say, and here we are, where we're languishing at 0.1% growth or something at the minute.
Yeah, in 2024,
America's growth rate is 4.2%.
So is Russia's. Despite all of the sanctions and everything else, Russia grew 4 times faster than Britain last year. I did a little survey on X, and by an overwhelming majority, people preferred Putin to run Britain than the current sham government.
I'm not saying it would necessarily be a nicer place, but it would be run more efficiently, I suspect.
He's a proper leader.
Like him or loathe him. And he's a nationalist. He's very pro-Russia.
And he's not woke.
No.
You wouldn't have rainbow posters all over the Moscow underground.
No.
We do have here Sadiq Khan. Terrible.
Anyway, yes.
I'm angry now. I was angry before. I'm even more angry now. Not because there'll be some other fatuous headline about me in the next.
I think that must be a cue to move on to May then. Headline. Oh, this is a good one. This: Ukrainians charged with arson blitz on Starmer's homes and car. Well, Starmer's ex-homes and cars. A shocking series of arson attacks targeted Keir Starmer's properties and his car. 2 Ukrainian nationals were charged, and there's a lot of questions about security and foreign interference with the war on drivers carrying on in the background. But those two are still on remand, I think. I don't think they've even been brought to trial yet. It's over 2 years since these events took place. And there were all sorts of conspiracy theories swirling in the background about Ukrainian rent boys and all sorts of stuff, which, you might think they were true, but I couldn't possibly comment.
There were three of them, all born in Ukraine. Good-looking, handsome young men, if you're into that kind of thing. And what's mysterious about this is that the Prime Minister's current and former property was allegedly damaged by these suspects, and it takes a year to take them to court. Well, if it's in the national interests and it certainly is, to know what's going on with the Prime Minister, they should be able to do this very quickly. They were able, they were able to charge and imprison Lucy Connolly for her 2 words on the internet in no time. But these three languish in prison. Now, there is some talk about the fact that maybe there are gagging orders for the mainstream media to not talk about it. But I simply don't accept that that's reasonable. If the Prime Minister is in real danger, then we should know quickly, and it is in the public interest. And here's the problem, as you say, there are all kinds of rumors swirling around. I'll tell you a very funny joke about it after the show. I don't want to say it on air. And Starmer looks ridiculous, frankly. He looks ridiculous because of all the joshing and mocking at his expense, because we don't know the truth.
That clearly suggests that if we did know the truth, that would be even more embarrassing than all the mocking and the rest of it.
Well, you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah. To jail with the rest of us, probably.
Remember, the first rule of jail: meet somebody nice the first day you're there and become an
Right, okay. Probably May done for, and probably us done for as well. Moving on to June.
Brian, allegedly. There you go.
Allegedly, yes, allegedly. So now, June, Reeves' cruel U-turn, pensioners frozen out of winter fuel cash. Well, again, this is something where the government contrived to get themselves into more hot water, and then subsequently down the line have had to water things down, as we're seeing, with the farmers' situation as well. That they come out and they say, "Oh, we're going to implement this policy, no U-turns, no nothing," and then within a very short period, they're sort of ducking and diving and slightly changing course until eventually they do the full 180 on it and sort of walk it back. What is the point? Sorry, go on, Lembit.
It's a 360 because first they said that if you vote Tories, they'll get rid of the winter fuel allowance. Then Labour got in. They did get rid of the winter fuel allowance, totally contradicting themselves. And then they got rid of getting rid of the winter fuel allowance. And that I may indeed have delivered coal to Downing Street, as the subheading says, but there would be an irony. Certainly, Starmer only deserves coal for Christmas. Actually, he deserves nothing because he is an atheist.
Yeah, well, he can eat the coal.
There's rumours as well that by the time the next mayoral elections come around, that coal will actually be a diamond. So it's all good.
You have to know quite a lot about physics to understand why that's funny, Paul.
No, I got it.
Dear viewer, it's the same stuff. But if you squash coal enough, you get diamonds, but it does take a few million years.
Yeah, a bit of pressure as well. I don't think rubbing it, intensively would actually.
You're talking about Keir Starmer again.
No, it's talking about the time to make diamonds. Although I think all you succeed in doing is getting black hands. Anyway, moving swiftly on, I think we're into July now.
Beautiful July.
Yes. UK car factories face 15% collapse, blaming EV mandates and trade war. And I mean, I think if you look at registrations now, and the SMMT, Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, they warned there was going to be a 15% reduction in British car production. It's more than that now, isn't it? I think it's gone way beyond that. We're now making less cars than we did in the 1950s, I believe. And I think it's
hardly surprising because the Labour Party's done all it can to wreck our industry. And I have to say the Tories are responsible as well. One of my frustrations has been that the Labour and the Conservative Party, and the Lib Dems, I mean, these three jokers are all obsessed with punishing us for wanting to drive petrol and diesel vehicles. And for back to that climate hoax, there isn't a climate emergency, and human beings can't really affect the climate. So the whole thing's based on a false premise. The enemies of the West must be laughing all the way to the bank, because we haven't actually stopped making cars. A year with the highest oil at the time of broadcasting this show, oil usage was 2024, but I bet you it'll be 2025 because third world and second world countries want what we've got, and the best way to do it is with hydrocarbon fuel. And it's just as well they're doing it because carbon dioxide's our friend. But all of this is harming, all this stupidity is harming our motor industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And our total economy, because and we've all seen the charts, there are no high energy costs, high growth, high living standards economies in the world. All the subsistence economies are based on, having low energy availability and high energy prices, which is where we're heading towards. It's an absurdity,
of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
The worst thing about it is that we're making structural damage to our economy that we can't undo.
Yes.
Because all that's going to happen is the motor manufacturing will be exported, and people aren't going to say, oh, well, the Labour Party's changed its mind now, we'll go back. They'll say, well, we're here now. We've left now. And really the biggest beneficiaries are currently China and will be India. India is massively underestimated on this. And if Russia's smart, they'll start doing stuff because the Ukraine situation will get resolved. And due to our own stupidity, Russia is now essentially one of the shining lights in the triumvirate, Russia, China, and India, in terms of the new industrial axis for the world. And they'll make the cars because they're not worried about CO2. And when you hear China saying that they'll at some point move across to cleaner energy, why would they? They don't need to. They're number 2 in the world in economic size, but number 1, as far as I can see, in terms of manufacturing already. And then we buy their cars. It's as if the CO2 just stays in China when they make these cars. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, we've got a hugely service-based economy. So basically, somebody that works in Asda on the tills then goes and spends their money in Wetherspoons, and that's it. And that's cyclical. And in terms of actually manufacturing anything, I mean, we were already struggling as a manufacturing nation, but to put all these extra obstacles in the way is just crazy. And all we're doing is making these other countries richer, and by having this virtue signaling idea that we're going to sort out that and go to net zero is absolutely ridiculous. We will, if I put in a drop of cordial into a full glass of water, it's going to make it slightly opaque. We're not going to do anything. It's ridiculous. But what can we do?
Well, you look at the energy consumption and the consumption of coal and stuff like that. The developed world's going like that, and Europe and ourselves are going down the way. So our influence is actually decreasing with all of these crazy climate policies because we're absolutely folding our economy up. It's a basket case virtually now, and all of the prime manufacturing is moving to, as you say, to the sort of Eastern axis. India, China, Russia. And they're just cleaning up because they'll just keep burning coal. China's building coal plants are still, I think, at 1 a week, and they're using supercritical combustion. So actually, the emissions are quite clean compared with conventional power stations. But it's coal nonetheless.
But it's good though, because if you look at it, Paul Naylor gave us a brief education in the formation of diamonds earlier on. I'll give you one about plant life. Plants love carbon dioxide. It's the gas of life. It's their fertilizer. So China's actually feeding the world by, in a very marginal sense, increasing the amount of carbon dioxide. It's really a tiny amount. Doesn't really make much difference to the climate, but it does make some difference to plants. If we could double the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, that would be great, because then you'd be able to grow things where you can't grow them at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. The Earth would green. Well, the Earth has greened quite dramatically in the last 4 or 5 decades, and NOAA, NASA satellite measurements have proved it. That even the slight increase we've seen, if it's to be believed, from 280 parts per million volume pre-industrial to current 420, has increased the amount of the Earth's land surface on which we can cultivate, just because of that small increase.
Yeah, it's one of the, for another time, maybe for a show in 2026, but it'd be interesting to figure out why carbon dioxide has increased. It doesn't seem likely that most of that is by humans. It just doesn't add up. But whatever the reason, it's good. This is the irony, of course, that we're told that a good thing is a bad thing. It's classic or George Orwell 1984 doublethink.
But the reason for choosing carbon dioxide was because carbon dioxide was one of the products from combusting hydrocarbons, which they laughingly call fossil fuels. Try grinding up the bones of a Tyrannosaurus Rex and burning them and see what happens. That's fossil fuels. So hydrocarbon combustion produces carbon dioxide, but at the moment it's the most portable, high energy density type of fuel that you can use for vehicles. It's much superior to battery powered vehicles because of the very low energy density, the huge resource requirements of battery electric vehicles in terms of mining them and all the rest of it, and the infrastructure that's needed to produce the renewable electricity to fuel them. It's a complete nonsense. But fossil fuels are brilliant, as though Alex Epstein, as it says, the guy who wrote a book on fossil fuel future, I think it's called, or something. We can't do without them. And of course, the downstream products, society is dependent on plastics, on antibiotics, all of these oil-derived materials that make our society run smoothly. We'd be without them if we weren't using see, I've said it now, weren't using hydrocarbons.
You did it yourself now.
I know, yes. Slapped wrist.
And that's the biggest problem. We are doing this to ourselves. This is something that's being done out of choice.
Yeah, it's political self-mutilation, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's a crazy. Right. Okay. Do you think we've done with July now? Was it July?
Yeah,
or was
my producer not satisfied. Our producer not satisfied with mocking me in the headlines now says Lembit Öpik. There's nothing opaque about me. I'm open book.
All right. Okay. Well, we're on to August. Pothole hell. Record summer breakdowns as roads crumble under neglect. Yeah. I mean, it is absolutely reprehensible. This when you think that, when you look at the all-up tax take from road users, not just from fuel and road tax, road, what do they call it, vehicle excise duty, all this other stuff, but from the VAT that's levied on when your car's serviced, when you buy a new car or a used car, when you replace tires and all the rest of it. All VAT has been collected on those, and none of it's getting fed back into maintaining our roads, which are they're not even probably at the level they were when we were using horses and carts. It's just dreadful.
It comes to something when country lanes are better than sort of like your A roads and your B roads.
Yeah, well, it depends whereabouts. Some of the country roads in County Durham and local area where I live are in dreadful condition.
Are they? Right.
Yeah.
Who can not have been enraged when you drive over a pothole and you get that bang, and you just think, is that damaging the rim of my wheel? And I've had punches when I lived in central London. I had massive problems because of the abysmal state of the roads there. And also then you got the road calming measures, which makes you accelerate, increasing your fuel consumption. But also, if you hit one of them too hard, problems for your vehicle again. But what is the amount of money that car drivers give in tax? Something like 37 billion a year, something like that.
Direct, of that order. But
only a tiny fraction goes into road usage. Of course, there's another irony in this. They're now starting to tax electric vehicles after having tried to incentivize people with money to get electric vehicles, but the holes just keep getting worse. You get these headlines in the unquestioning mainstream media. Oh yeah, millions to be spent on fixing potholes, but the problem is a dire one. From a technological point of view, we still haven't fixed it because pothole repair is still in the dark ages.
Yeah. And the councils are struggling with, what was the last I heard of, £16 billion in repair backlogs or something. It's absolutely crazy. Much more than actually gets fed into road. I think roads get about 7 to 10 billion maybe out of the 50 billion that's levied in total. I think roads get about 10 billion, and that's right across the whole country. And of course, our road network, really, in comparison with a lot of European countries, we don't have a lot of roads. We certainly don't have a lot of major roads, motorways and A roads compared with, say, Belgium or, if you look at the kilometres of motorway and A road per 1,000 kilometres of country roads, land surface. We're in the middle, I think, or towards the bottom of the pile. And then people wonder why we have all these congestion problems. I mean, they keep arguing, oh well, if you build roads, people will use them. They'll only use the roads if they're going from places where people want to get to and from. I mean, like the M6 Relief Road, that doesn't get used that much because you have to pay a toll to go on it. And most people would rather sit in congestion on the main M6 itself than use the toll road.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that a lot of people would expect that fines for speeding, faster than you should go and getting caught speeding, and tolls. I think a lot of people would expect that money is then ploughed back into your roads and your infrastructure.
No, it's going to all the speed awareness course providers as well, where they're siphoned off. It's another self-perpetuating bureaucracy, which is of course why there's the constant pressure to reduce speed limits even further. Because the more people you can track with unreasonable speed limits, the more money it is for the course providers.
And going back to what we said earlier about changing it constantly, so it drops from 30 and then goes up to 40 and then back down to 20. And it just makes it impossible for people to keep up with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, essentially, because it's been devolved to local level, you've got different local councillors with different agendas, but all of them seem to follow the route that, it must be safer to go slower. Even when you look at the science, if you look at the Solomon curve, actually, it isn't the slowest drivers are actually the ones that are involved in the most accidents.
Yeah.
Because nobody's expecting people to be driving that slow. So, what we actually need is an overarching, as we've said before in ABD, we need a road accident investigation and prevention branch. Apparently it's not a board, it's a branch. Road accident investigation and prevention branch that we need to actually set speed limits and ensure that their enforcement is realistic and objective and fair in places where speed is a particular problem, not in the middle of an open motorway in light traffic where, there's an easy target, we'll take whatever quick for send him on a speed awareness course. Ka-ting, ka-ting.
We could call it the Road Accident Branch Investigative Department, or RABID. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but I can
see the comments around. He was trying to get that.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but you get the idea.
No. Anyway, back to what we were talking about was roads infrastructure, and we were talking about potholes and state of roads. But the other thing, of course, is councils and being encouraged by central government, not just local councils, of building miles and miles further of cycle lanes, which even the cyclists don't use themselves, so they can jam all the rest of the traffic into a smaller road space and create even more congestion.
The irony here is, if you go to developing countries like China, they're getting away from bicycles. They're moving to powered vehicles.
Yes.
And if you go through London on a rainy day, you got miles and miles of empty cycle lanes, for example, along the embankment of the Thames, and total gridlock in the roads. In fact, London is the most congested capital city in Europe now, and it's because we've got complete plonkers in charge of the policies, and it's just ideology. Who seriously cycles to work if they live 20 miles away? They don't.
No.
And it increases the risk of prostate cancer if you do.
Yeah, dramatically as well.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that, but there's a man called Hamer did some research into this, and something like 6 times more likely to get have prostate cancer if you cycle a lot. Yeah. And we actually contacted him and said, "Is this true?" He said, "Yeah, I'm not explaining the causality, but there is one."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really serious. Yeah. Also, by the way, just in terms of road safety, during COVID, there was something like a 40% increase in cycling and a 40% increase in cycling deaths, even though there was a 20% or so reduction in cost. Deaths on bicycles are directly proportional to how much cycling is going on. And it's not proportionate to other vehicles at all.
No, well, I think there is a mentality among cyclists, or a proportion of them, that they're entitled to do absolutely anything. And there's a guy called Edis is his moniker on Twitter, and he shows all this stuff in London with cyclists just running amok, going through red lights, just in droves, not just one or two. And then, of course, there's these floating bus stops that they've put in loads of places in London that are terrible for blind people, because you watch it and the cyclists have no intention of stopping for somebody. Well, they may not know they've got impaired vision. That's not the point. You shouldn't be riding like Evel Knievel on a public road.
Evel Knievel, that dates you. Evel Knievel was a motorcycle stunt rider who had a great name.
I remember him well. And I had him one Christmas on the wind-up thing, and off he went. Brilliant.
He had quite a lot of broken bones as well, I seem to remember.
Well, yeah, it's not the safest job. Ask poor Eddie Kidd, who really damaged himself. Yeah. I mean, if you're jumping over 6 buses on 2 wheels, not smart, really.
No. I think most people just get on the bus, really, rather than try and jump. Anyway, that's by the by. Okay, so I think we've done August. Its due level of attention there, and we're on to September, and this is when Angela Rayner resigned in disgrace. I mean, and she's not the last, not the first rather, and certainly won't be the last. But I mean, a number of Labour politicians have been forced into this position by, how can you put it, protocol violations or something? I don't know.
Well, I call it hypocrisy. She's in charge. She was in charge of housing, and then she broke her own rules. Once again, if she'd simply said, "No one's perfect. I've never preached to anybody else. I'm trying to get a good deal," you might just about maybe be able to get away with it. But it was because it was so blatant, and she was doing exactly what the sort of thing was that she used to condemn the posh Tories for doing. And it's just shocking. At time of broadcasting, she hasn't got a job back, but I bet you she will come back. And also, here's the funniest thing of all: she could become the Prime Minister.
When
Starmer resigns.
She is loved by the. Well, I hesitate to use the term hard left, because I don't think hard left and hard right mean anything nowadays. I mean, we've looked at this now. For me, if you say somebody is hard left or hard right, it's the same. It doesn't matter, because if effectively whether they're Marxist or fascist, the result for the people living in the country is the same. It's just totalitarian and anti-libertarian. So which she is certainly the hard anti-libertarian tendency in the Labour Party. Really love her. So yes, she is a big threat.
Well, except she's so incompetent that I think that it would make Prime Minister's questions unmissable, in the same way that David Lammy makes Prime Minister's questions unmissable because he's so bad. But she lost her job, and she'll be back because the Labour Party just cares about itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't care about honesty and ethics and stuff like that. That's the plebs to worry about.
They used to. One thing I'd say about Jeremy Corbyn, and certainly his brother Piers Corbyn, is very smart on climate.
Absolutely.
Corbyn is,
Piers Corbyn's very smart.
And Jeremy was principled, but you can't see any of that with the current shower.
no. They flip and flop more than a pair of those shoes, you know.
I wondered where you're going with that there. It sounded rude for a minute.
No. But they do. They made so many U-turns and flips and flops that you can't trust anything they say. You know, we've got no plans to do that at the moment. It means we'll probably do it tomorrow or the day after.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad.
One thing that they do try to be smart about, though, is that they are trying to create their own voting network by appealing to people that don't want to work, by giving them all the benefits that they should have given.
Yeah.
So where Labour were once the people of the party for the working class, they're now the party for the non-working class. And
yes, very much so. Yes, yeah, and it goes back to that old Tory poster: "Labour's not working."
Yeah, Labour voters aren't working.
They're not working because they're all on benefits that you set up for them. Yeah. While working, genuine, industrious, hard-working people are penalised in effect.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I saw an article somewhere. It sort of said that if you had, was it 3 children? I think you could end up with like 40 odd grand or something in your hand, not taxed or anything, compared with actually going out to work. You think, well, why does anybody go out to work under those circumstances? You know?
And who's more likely to have 6 kids? People that are hardworking or people that don't go to work?
Yeah, because they know they've got to bring them up. They've got to get them.
Well, the reason they lifted the 2-child cap is because it seems obvious to me, because they're appealing to their voting base.
Yes.
And so the budget, which we might come to, was all about increasing benefits. And once again, Reeves lied. He's
absolutely
unbelievably bad.
Yeah, and was not really taken to task for it. I mean, you know, is it not? I thought it was a huge breach of parliamentary protocol to lie to the House, which she's done it on
it's a
two occasions.
offence, but she keeps getting away with it because the problem is we don't have a proper opposition either. The proper opposition would have her out of the way by now, but Starmer's so closely connected to Reeves that when Reeves goes, so will Starmer, or when Starmer goes, so will Reeves.
Yeah.
And we'll get some genius like Rayner about me instead. Ed Miliband, absolutely.
Oh, great. Yes, I think we've covered that. And in the background, and it says on the script here, I can still read it, it says, more evidence of a government in disarray while anti-motorist policies kept rolling out, which they are in the background all the time. And at the moment, there's none of the main political parties grappling with this and realizing that if they actually supported 37 million vehicle users, that might actually be a very, very successful ticket in terms of attracting voters.
Yeah, but they don't do that calculation, do they?
No, not at the moment. Anyway, we're on to October now. Miliband's net zero nightmare, eye-watering costs slam drivers and bills. I mean, and it's only recently, I think, that the Starmer is now starting to join the EU, go back into the EU's energy policy regime, which will crucify all of us because we'll be tied to their crazy net zero rules on emissions for everything, not just emissions from power stations and stuff, but emissions from cars, emissions from your gas cooker, emissions from your central heating system, and they're all going to be subject to targets in terms of reductions. So, as you reduce energy consumption, you reduce living standards. So, all of our economy, all of our living standards are going to gradually swirl down the plug hole.
And he wants to bury £22 billion worth of carbon dioxide. There's a very good little, I can't say it on a family show, but there's a very funny cartoon where he's got Ed Miliband with a speech bubble saying that he's going to bury £22 billion worth of carbon dioxide. And there's a tree with a speech bubble. I'm paraphrasing. I do that for free, you silly sausage.
Yes. Yeah. Don't talk about the sausages.
Yes. Miliband is unbelievably over promoted. He just hasn't got a clue about climate. And of course, they all fly over to their little climate conferences in places like the Amazon, where they knock down part of the Amazon to build a road for the climate conference.
Yeah,
it's just stunning. It really is.
Yeah,
I don't remember him being like this first time around when he was the leader of the opposition. I don't remember him being anything like he is now.
because Labour Party wasn't as stupid as it is now.
Yeah,
What one thing that I learned when I was in human resources in a big company was that bad managers very rarely promote people who are better than they are. So
yeah,
we got Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
And if he's the intellectual limit, he's going to have people who are far worse than him,
yeah.
and that's what's happened. And Miliband is ruining the country, really. I mean, yeah, the madcap adventure there, Power's House of Hamster Wheel, well, not far from the truth. I mean, will Hamster Wheel read solar panels, which I mistakenly bought years ago, worst investment I ever made,
Yeah.
and heat pumps, which keep your house at a cold temperature. All of this is nonsense for the reasons that we already discussed.
Yeah.
We're ruining our economy, freezing our old people, wrecking our energy bills, and just to be sure, of course, some idiots from Ukraine, or essentially from the West, blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, so we can't even get cheap gas from Russia.
Yeah, not even indirectly. And
No.
added to that, we have the Norwegians have discovered enormous new resources of gas in the North Sea adjacent to us. So we could tap the same oil field from a slightly different location, and we'd have an enormous amounts of gas that we could use to power stations, if we had any, that weren't about to be demolished, and produce cheap energy for domestic and industrial use. Because as it is, we have far and away the highest electricity costs and energy costs in the world. Never mind the European Union.
We should be using coal. We're using coal anyway because China uses coal to build the stuff that we don't make anymore.
Yes.
We've got a layer of coal underneath our feet, and
Yep.
it has the added advantage of releasing carbon dioxide and making the world greener a little bit.
Yeah. And with modern technology, we could do it so that the other emissions are curtailed. And the only major emission would be carbon dioxide, which is great.
The only real issue with coal is you get a bit of acid rain, which isn't great, but you can deal with that, and it's not that hard.
You can scrub sulfur dioxide out of the emissions.
Yeah, you can't. And if you can get that out, let the carbon dioxide do what carbon dioxide does, which is feed plants, and let the coal do what coal does, which is power our economy. But no, we're going the opposite direction. It's unbelievable, actually. Viewers might be surprised by these things, but if you are surprised, dear viewer, that just shows how utterly propagandized our society has become. Carbon dioxide is our friend, coal is our friend, gas is our friend, oil is our friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Rather than our enemy, which is how the enemies of progress. I mean, these people are the sort of the new Luddites, who try to cast all progress as bad, when in fact it's been anything but. The last 100 years or so, living standards have enormously increased in this country, and so has life expectancy. It's doubled.
A hypocritical Green London Assembly member proudly announced to my friend Keith, "I only allow myself one flight a year." To which he said, "How do you get back? Walk?" And this is the point. These people ignore the fact that 90% of the human race has never flown at all, and yet they fly all over the world to tell us not to fly. Emma Thompson, I used to quite like her as an actress. I won't pay to see anything she does now because she flew all the way from America to UK to embark on supporting a climate emergency demonstration. You flew all the way from America to do that. You flew, and this is the thing. The total hypocrites. Yeah,
absolutely. Right, okay, I think that's October disappearing over the horizon, and we're on to November. Oh yes, we've partially discussed this already. The 40 billion tax raid, farmers' fury over the inheritance law changes, which affect not just them but a number of other businesses as well. But they're probably in the front line. So we had tractor protests, some of which were stopped by the police at very late notice, causing a lot of problems. And of course, they arrested quite a few farmers who were at the forefront of that. Frozen tax thresholds, of course, fiscal drag, which has been used by not just the Labour but Tories as well, and road pricing, of course, for BEVs, which is another good reason to stick with an ICE vehicle, because we already pay a progressive form of road tax through fuel duty. We don't need to pay any paper mile, and we never will if we can avoid it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Also, think about the surveillance implications of this, because paper mile requires people to know everywhere you're going all the time. Yes. And we're already the most surveilled country in the world, pretty much, pretty close to it. And it just gets worse.
Well, I mean, I think the aim is to tie your digital ID to your carbon dioxide emissions, to your consumption, in effect, and to use central bank digital currency to actually get to the point where they can police whether you're even allowed to go on that journey at all, never mind surveilling you when you're on it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
These people are, they rival, using technology, what the Russians did in Stalin's time, and of course the Germans in Nazi Germany.
I wonder if with all the surveillance, if it was all in place, we'd have got to the bottom of what happened with those 3 handsome young Ukrainian men who allegedly attacked Sir Keir Starmer's property. Now, that'd be an interesting. Let's start with that and then see how it goes. Let's start by having 24-hour surveillance of the cabinet, see what they're up to, and then if that works, then we can find out. Then we can roll it out. But I don't think they want that. I don't think Keir Starmer would.
No. But of course, they're all paragons of virtue,
Yeah, paragons of virtue. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally buy that. Yeah, so you had Angela Rayner and Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband and David Lammy over for Christmas dinner, did you? He won't cross my door on that basis, not least because there won't be any food left if Lammy's there. And frankly, just imagine listening to Angela Rayner talking about Tory scum and I don't know, Keir Starmer explaining his views on young Ukrainian men. I don't know, what does he talk about? What did he talk about?
Well, don't worry, because you'll be playing Trivial Pursuit.
And that'd be all right anyway, because Lord Arley's it'll be financing their Christmas dinner, won't you? Labour donor.
That's right. Imagine having a man who buys clothes for your wife and not thinking that's odd. It's really weird. Really weird. Yeah.
Anyway, yes. I think we should get on to less sensitive points.
There's nothing positive to say about the current government.
No, well,
the only positive thing is that their term of office is finite. Oh no, I know they cancel elections, don't they?
Yeah, well, yes, that's also seems to be a factor that's playing in the background as well now. Okay, so do you think we've done November? It's due.
Yeah, let's bring it right up to date.
Right. Okay. Well, let's bring it on to current times, onto December, in effect, of which there isn't much left, it must be said. So Christmas Day EV sting, congestion charge exemption axed. Bah humbug, Lembit.
Humbug.
Yeah.
I quite like, actually. Yeah, I like it.
On Christmas Day itself, electric vehicles lost their exemption from the London congestion charge. The ultimate slap in the face for early EV buyers who've been promised cheaper running costs. Another broken green price.
I predicted this about 10 years ago. I went to an inquiry into what was called the Silvertown Tunnel. It's a new crossing being proposed underneath the Thames. And in the course of my excellent cross-questioning of the, if I say so myself, excellent cross-questioning of the legal counsel of the Transport for London people, they said quite openly, yes, sooner or later, we're going to have to charge electric vehicles. So I said to everyone, they're going to do it. Everybody ignored me. And now it's happened. And this is the thing. It is a slap in the face you buy something which is a super heavy, battery laden pain in the backside if you're making a long journey, and you go, well, at least it's cheaper for now. Okay, never mind the fact, as you said before, the resale value plummets, because why would you buy a second-hand electric vehicle if you don't know if the batteries have been damaged or not? It's just really asking for trouble buying a second-hand electric vehicle. So you got this thing which has crap resale value, it's heavy, takes time to recharge, but you go, well, at least I can drive it around without having to pay congestion charge. No, how wrong you are. And the pay per mile is all about taxing these vehicles. So
Yes.
not only did they essentially sell you a pup, they're now punishing you for it.
Yeah. Well, as was done with diesel vehicles, of course. We were all at one stage exhorted to buy diesel vehicles because the carbon dioxide emissions from a diesel vehicle were lower than those from petrol vehicle. But of course, there were other emissions which mostly have been dealt with by technology now. So diesels are very clean, but nonetheless, we were at that time we were being sold something that was actually going to make air quality worse instead of better, because the vehicles weren't equipped with selective catalytic reduction and things like that as they are now. And of course, everybody was, particularly company car drivers, which I was at the time, were encouraged to go diesel. And then the next thing you know, oh no, it's the worst thing in the world. We're all dying of air pollution. You're all doomed. So we must tax you.
This is the problem. This whole thing about air pollution, people, there's a very tiny number of individuals who have problems with air, and they have underlying health problems, but the overwhelming majority of people don't. But here's the irony, and I've said it before on Full Throttle. What's Sadiq Khan, that useless Labour mayor's solution? Force us into the underground? Oh, hang on, but he tells us that particulate matter is deadly. Lo and behold, particulate matter is between 500 and 3,000% higher in the underground, depending where you are, than it is street level. So it doesn't even add up. And as for pollution, the biggest exposure you get to something called nitrogen oxides is when you're cooking in the winter in your house with the windows shut, if you're using gas. The amount of nitrogen oxides in your kitchen is orders of magnitude more than you get in the street. And actually, there's a piece of research which I looked into some years ago to see if people who cook with gas have higher incidence of respiratory problems than people who cook electric. And there's no evidence of it at all. The whole thing, it's a bit like the climate rubbish. And yet, we're told things like 9,500 people die a year from bad air in London. Give me a break. You know, it's just rubbish.
Yeah. And, well, it always was, because the COMI, the Committee for the Environmental Effects of Air Pollution, I think they're called COMI, their initial study, they basically were told to estimate, and it really was that, their estimates were based on attributional data, no hard data that linked loss of life. And so they came up with this estimate that, what was it now? It was it was life years lost across the whole population. So they made an estimate of what the loss per individual was and multiplied it by the total population, and they came, oh, this is 40,000 lifetimes, years lost. But you're talking a very, very small estimated loss, because there was no evidence supporting it.
Like 8 minutes of person or something like that. Yeah.
It was completely garbage, attributional epidemiological data. But of course, Khan and all these other crazies all ran with it. Oh, there's 50,000, millions of people each year dying of air pollution. No, actually, if you look at the evidence, it just isn't there.
It's basically threshold versus taper. What does that mean? What it means is that what they assume is that the deaths go up as a proportion of pollution. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 together with pollution going up like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it's not like that. It's a threshold. There's a threshold that really, if you go above, then it gets problematic. But we're nowhere near that threshold. If people can survive in Delhi, which has a really bad air pollution problem, then
so it's number one in the world.
Yeah, we've got nothing like that here. Possibly in Delhi, there's a problem. I don't know really, haven't studied it properly, but Britain hasn't. Here's another irony. The place with the highest life expectancy in Britain, I think it's the highest, is also the place with the highest pollution, and that's Marylebone. Why? Because life expectancy is pretty directly proportional to wealth, and the wealthiest people live around Marylebone. It's about wealth. It's nothing to do with air pollution. The place, the place with the second lowest, the place with the lowest air pollution in terms of the way that they measure it, particulate matter, I think I looked at, is some island in Scotland, and it hasn't got particularly high life expectancy. The second lowest is in Fermanagh in Northern Ireland, once again lower than average life expectancy. It's about wealth. Wealth makes you live longer.
It does.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a result of the wealth, your consumption patterns, what you eat, all those sort of things they're all interrelated with the living standards. And as you say, it's wealth and living standards that have a much higher, much stronger influence than air pollution or anything else. Certainly in current sort of major cities here in the UK, and there's loads of evidence from people who actually worked on the science of air pollution. There's a guy called John Lamb in Scotland who obviously worked on this, and his evidence shows there was no real justification for putting any of the ULEZ zones in, because putting them in didn't do anything to improve the levels of pollution, and hence didn't do anything to improve public health. All they did was, again, raise money for local councils and government. So yeah, it's just all smoke and mirrors.
It's rubbish, actually, I think is the phrase you're looking for. Utter total twaddle. Somehow we've managed to leave the age of reason and end up in an age of ignorance.
Yes, very much.
Where we have total scientific fools making decisions which cost this country trillions and guarantee that the United Kingdom will become a backwater with little manufacturing to speak of, partly because of hugely high energy costs and partly because of penal taxation. But we buy everything in. So all we've done is export our carbon dioxide, ironically, to countries like China, which, as you said before, building one coal-fired power station a week or opening one coal-fired power station a week. And as well they might, because somebody's got to release the carbon dioxide.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it will take something, I think, seismic in the political arena for things to change, because I'm not convinced personally that whatever the Conservatives say in opposition, that when they get into power, if they were to get into power, anything dramatic would change. So it will take basically the green blob to be sidelined before there's any chance of any real concrete, genuine political change in terms of energy policy, which is what in the end drives the economy. I mean, Reeves keeps talking about growth, but everything she's doing is actually dampening down growth instead of the opposite. We're not investing in high profitability, growth sustaining activities. We're spending more and more on public health and diversity and all sorts of other stupid stuff like that, and actually public expenditure, but there's no private sector growth to actually generate the wealth to sustain the public expenditure.
This has been really depressing as a program, but you're right. At least we are making honest observations, and one of the good things about unprecedented TV is we put it all in the archive and we can look back in a year or two and see what's happened. But one thing's for sure, this country is on a collision course with disaster, where we buy everything in, having invented a lot of modern manufacturing, having invented a lot of things, especially in aviation and really advanced stuff. We've exported it all and we buy it back in, and it's heartbreaking. The country that built Concorde is now having to essentially buy in a very large proportion of the things that we need, and we've got a government that doesn't understand this, run by ministers who haven't run businesses. We have the worst educated cabinet in history, as far as I know, and they try to make a virtue of it, and then they tax the public for wanting to put their children into private schools, not least because in those private schools there's some hope that they're not being given weird sex education instructions about transsexuality when the children are 5 or 8.
Yes.
And while these things are important for a very small proportion of the population, I do not accept that that kind of thing is helping this country dig itself out of an economic hole that it's got into. And then you've got people like what you call it, Angela Rayner and David Lammy thinking they could be prime minister. Why? Because they probably think to themselves, if Keir Starmer can be prime minister, anyone can.
Yeah.
But the problem is that almost anybody would, well, with a few exceptions we've already mentioned, almost anybody else would do a better job than Keir Starmer.
Well, I was watching Love Actually over Christmas, and you see Hugh Grant as the PM, and you think, yeah, he would be a much
he would be credible.
He would be, and I can't help watching it either. It's a really good film, and you think to yourself, you've got Hugh Grant as the prime minister. You got is it Kevin Kline was a great president in some film, and you think, why can't those people be in charge?
Why can't actually Ronald Reagan?
Well, in a way, Donald Trump is a bit like that because he doesn't fit the mold. And to be a bit expansive, I would say that Viktor Orban in Hungary is the real deal. He describes his colleagues in Europe as stupid, or at least their decisions are stupid. And then you got weirdos like Mark Rutte in charge of NATO. There's this cabal of underqualified incompetence making huge life and death decisions while this country falls apart. If you take a step back from what Full Throttle's all about, essentially, as far as I can tell, this program is about saying, let's have common sense policies for ordinary people. And those ordinary people don't like to pipe up because they feel a bit like they're going to be pariahed if they say, oh, there isn't a climate emergency. And that leaves it for us to say it for them.
It's the same old problem, isn't it? It's the silent majority.
It's easier to pipe up and say, well, actually, I don't agree with any of this. There isn't a climate emergency. And there isn't. It just isn't. It's all based on lies and inferences and exaggerations. None of it's based on sound science.
Well, at the time of broadcasting, the United States has been, a lot of the United States has been blanketed with huge quantities of snow. And you just think to yourself, when that idiot David Viner said, our children won't know about the snow as well, then they've obviously not been to America or January 2026 in Britain. And we just need a dose of common sense. Why don't you two stand for Parliament?
Thing is, we come as a package.
That's right. It's a bit like Morecambe and Wise,
Well, we are. Or the two Ronnies.
Or the two Ronnies.
Yeah, it would be interesting because they'd be in the inside. You could find out what happened with those mysterious Ukrainian, those handsome young Ukrainian men accused of damaging Keir Starmer's property. Get on the inside. The public deserves to know.
We need to terminate this now. This is becoming a bit of an obsession of yours. Anyway, I think we've done a review of the year there. So maybe we should say a thank you to everyone who supported Full Throttle throughout the year. To all our viewers on Unprecedented TV, to the members and supporters of the Alliance of British Drivers who never stop fighting, and to everyone who's watched, shared, and joined the debate. And
it's a good
you're backing you guys means the world. It means the world to us and keeps us fired up.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody.
Wrong one. That way. Over to Paul. The orbit at the end.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So so basically, reiterating what you said, Brian, it's a big thank you from us. Should we do it two Ronnie style? It's a good night for me.
I don't know if I can do two Ronnie's accent.
It's a good night from me.
Oh yes, and it's good night from him.
Yay!
And him. Okay. Anyway, that's it for 2025. Try to stay safe, stay defiant, and we'll see you in the new year. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Cheers.